Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the webinar. So, as you know that today the topic is SQL related, that is SQL essentials for busy professionals from beginners to expert. So, in busy, if you are using SQL database, you might be getting the errors and there is some problems that you are facing. So today I'm going to explain you all the such kind of troubleshooting details. Similarly, first I'm going to show you how to configure the SQL and how to connect the database, and later we will see the troubleshooting parts, and end of the webinar we will be have a question and answer session as well. So please be active in the session. If you have any such kind of queries or doubts, you can ask. Thanks a lot for once again to joining this webinar today. So myself Suraj, let us start. So SQL, it's called as structured query language. It's one type of database. In generally busy, we can able to configure two types of databases, MS Access and MS SQL. Both product was developed by Microsoft Corporation. So here the SQL is having more advantages compared to Access, because in SQL we are having more ability to store the data, because SQL is compatible for heavy data sizes, and even in SQL you can able to synchronize the data from branch office to head office. For the data synchronizing, this concept will be able to do it in SQL database only, not in Access database. Apart from this, in SQL, if you found any kind of such kind of problems related to database, easily you can correct the issues while using the SQL queries. So there are many advantages here. First, we will see that agenda of the today's training or today's webinar. First, we will overview the SQL, and then we will see the installation steps, and third point we will see the configuration and best practices that you want to follow, and challenges, and apart from there is some errors, different types of errors that you are getting while installing the SQL database, and how to troubleshoot that kind of errors that I'm going to teach you today. Similarly, frequently asked questions, there are few questions we are considered in this session. So I'll be answering that kind of question and answers for you, and end of the webinar we will have a question and answers. So kindly you can ask the queries and questions by your side. So first we will take it as a types of databases in busy. I already said that there are two types of database connectivity is possible. MS Access, Microsoft Access database will be able to configure for our basic edition, standard, as well as enterprise edition. We have two types of databases, MS Access and MS SQL. The MS SQL database will be configured it in our standard and enterprise licenses, not in basic license. This is very important thing here. And Microsoft SQL licenses, it will comes for two types of licenses called SC and EC. The full form of SC is Standard Client Server Edition, and EC is Enterprise Client Server Edition. Similarly, the Microsoft Access database will have two types of licenses, single user and multi-user. So now the main thing here is, if you are facing any type of difficulties in installation part, that is customer plays when you thinking that which SQL is better for this computer. So no worry, I'll be sharing one specific link to you. You can just copy the link in a chat box. So this link will help you to analyze the which SQL is compatible for the specific computer, because some customers is having Windows 8, some of the customer is having Windows 10, or some of they are having Windows 11, etc. Based on the system configurations and hardware configurations, whatever they have, so that you can suggest them to go for SQL, which type of SQL edition. This document is given by the Microsoft side only. So you can scroll down this web page and you can see it here. The Microsoft will given here Windows Computer operating system if you have. In that, you can able to install 2022 SQL Server, 2019 SQL Server, 2017 SQL Server, but you can't able to install 2016, 2014, 2012, 2008, because it is higher end operating system, so that you can able to install only 22, 19 and 17. Simultaneously, Windows 11 operating system if you have, or the client will have, then you should able to install SQL Server 2022, SQL Server 2019, SQL Server 2017, but it can't compatible for 16, 14, 12 and 8. So this documentation really it could help you a lot if you are trying to install the SQL database in your customer place. So I'll be sharing you this link to in your chat box. Please copy the link in your chat box. All right. Even currently my system, I am having Windows 11 operating system, so that I am able to install 22, 19, 17, not 16, 14, 12, etc. This is the compatibility. If you are try to install these databases, this version of SQL in your operating system as per the Microsoft guidelines, so it will be more faster. comparatively it will be more faster. Now let us see the installation steps of latest SQL version of 2022. Busy you can install Busy you can run 2000 either by the 2022 SQL or by the 19 or by the 17. There is no any such restrictions in that. Any type of SQL server version you can install Busy. But now I can taken here 2022 latest only. So how to download the SQL setup file? Just go to the Google Chrome browser or Microsoft Edge browser. In that you can search the keyword Microsoft SQL Server 2022 or 2019 or 2017. Which one do you want? After searching the keyword, one web page will appear by the Microsoft official site. This web page will become like this. In this you are getting the download option. Just download the setup file by here. After downloading the setup file, you can run the setup file. The setup file will become like this. This is the 2022 SQL version setup file. Just double click on that. Once you double click the SQL that setup file, this page will appear. Here you will be getting three types of options: basic, custom, and download media. We are selecting this basic. If you click on this basic option, then SQL will be started to installation. SQL process is started. And if you click on this download media, then what happened? That setup file will be separately downloaded. But if you click on this basic option, then internally that setup will be processed. And in next page that we are getting this screen, in that you can read the licensing terms if you want. Otherwise you can just press the accept option and go ahead. In third screen that you are getting another screen like this. Here if you want, you can change the root directory. By default it is taking C drive program files Microsoft SQL Server. If you doesn't want to install this SQL in your C drive, either you can install it by D drive, E drive, any other drive. Here you have one browse option. You can click the browse and you can change the root directory. Otherwise you can install it in C drive only, and then you can press the installation button, install button. Again you will be getting this type of screen. You are seeing that this type of screen will appear. Now the installation is not completed. After this completion, that you are receiving this message, installation has completed successfully. So now what you have to do, you have to click on this customize button. The SQL 2019 and 22 little bit different compared to 17, 16 and 14 etc. Because 2022 after the installation completion message, you has to press customize button. If you press the customize button, then only you can able to create the instance name and you can able to specify the SQL passwords etc. So after the successful completion of the installation, you should press the customize button. Then this type of window will appear. Then you need to press next button again. After this only you will be getting this installation type window. If you are performing the new installation, you just give the name of the instance. You can give any name, just like SQL or SQL 2022 or busy. Any name you can give. But one thing you can keep in mind, any point of time if you are installing the SQL, you can't interrupt any other SQL instances that installed in the existing computer. Sometimes the customer was using some other softwares. He was already installed one SQL database for the same version. You can't interrupt of that version of SQL, because sometime if you interrupt it, then there may be chances to have a data loss of the specific software, that software. You can't interrupt any of the SQL instances. Either you can create new instance only. It will be better. Here you can click on the add perform a new installation of SQL Server 2022 option. Again you can press the next button, license agreement and everything, and after that you can accept the license terms. Just press next button. After that you are getting this Azure extension of SQL Server option. This is not required for us. Suppose you are using Microsoft Azure Cloud, then you can able to sync the data from SQL Server to the Azure. But we are not doing this one. That is why we are skipping this stage. You just disable the checkbox given by there. You just disable it and you can press the next button. After skipping that page, again you are getting this feature selection. You have to select all the features given by here. You press select all, automatically it is get selected. Then you just press next over here, next button. In our next slide, we are getting this window to instance name actually, SQL 2022 password. It will become next step. Here you can mention the instance name. Again you press the next button. In next button, then you will be getting this window. Here you can see that SQL Server Database Engine and SQL Server Browser. Sometimes this SQL Browser and SQL Server Database Engine, this startup type will be disabled. Now it is automatic, it was given here, but sometime it will be disabled mode. You should you should enable, and you should keep the startup type as automatic. If you keep here automatic, then again you press the next button, and in this slide you'll be getting this password specifying option. So earlier we get that the instance name specifying window, but here we are getting that password specify window. You should select mixed mode. Always you should select mixed mode. You don't select the Windows authentication mode. Enter the password of the SQL database. I already said that z@123. This is the default password where we can use by our side. You can also use the same password. Specify the password once again. Confirm the password once again. If you specify the password, then you can able to see the username also. Your computer name / that is BIPL, that is a user account. This user account was added already. If it is not added, you can add the current user by using the add current user option. Then you can press the next option. Next, then you will be getting this type of window. Now the installation has begun. You have to wait some time. Cannot interrupt any of the services here. You don't use the task manager. You don't use any other application. Sometimes it might be interrupt. After that, you will be getting some errors also. So once successfully it has been completed, you will be receiving this message saying that database engine services succeeded and SQL server replication succeeded. Now the installation has been completed. In this way, you can able to install database of 2022 SQL server. Once the installation has been completed, you just install the another application called SQL Server Management, because sometimes the busy database, it can having some issue like data went to suspect mode or data went to emergency mode. So in that point, we has to retrieve the data. We has to correct the database. That time the SQL Management Studio will help you a lot, because it having all kind of backend features. It will be controlled by the database server. Now let us discuss how to install this SQL Server Management Studio 2022. First and foremost, so that setup file what I show you earlier, the same setup file, if you once click means, then you will be getting one option called download media. In the download media also you can download the SQL Server Management Studio. Otherwise, after receiving this message called installation has been completed, Microsoft SQL Server installation has been completed window. So bottom you are having 4 types of buttons: connect now, customize, install SSMS. SSMS means SQL Server Management Studio. If you press the button, after that you will be getting this screen here. So in this you will be getting download SSMS option, or you will be having one link actually. There will be one link, download SQL Server Management Studio. If you press the link, then automatically one setup file will be get downloaded. You press that setup file, then installation will be going to start. The install button will be available. If you press the install button, installation process begins. Now automatically internally the SQL Server Management Studio will be get installed. This is the setup file for 2022, but 2017, 2016 and 2014, that SQL versions, the Management Studio, it's a different process. Different process means you has to download the setup file and you has to run by manually. Then you has to follow certain steps for the installations. Then only it will be going to install. But SQL 2022, it's not like that. It's a very simple process to install. So within the that setup file itself, you will be having both the options to install Management Studio as well as the server. This is the way you can install the Management Studio. Now, most important part of this webinar is configurations. Now everything is done. Installation is completed. Now let us discuss few of the points here. Comparatively, in Busy, you know that there is no any separate exe file for the software. For Access, it's not separate, and SQL is not separate exe file. Both we have a single exe file. But within single exe file only, we can connect the Access as well as SQL databases. Access by default get after installing the Busy software, but SQL it can't automatically get installed after the completion of the Busy software install. Now let me tell you how to run this SQL database in our Busy. First and foremost, we has to create one shortcut. You can use this. You can right click on the desktop, use this new option, and select the shortcut. There you can install the Busy. That path you can go. That is in my computer. I have installed the software in Busy Win folder. That is in C drive. Busy Win folder will be there. Generally, in that folder, I'll be have a Busy 21 exe file. Just selected this one, and here you can keep the cursor and you can give some space. Purchased enterprise license, and you should specify here EC, or you are purchased a standard client server edition. You can mention here SC, standard client server edition. Now I mentioned EC because my license is enterprise license. That is why. It means Enterprise Client Server Edition. Once you created this type of shortcut, then one new shortcut has been created by the desktop. This one is the shortcut, the SQL. In Access database, what happened? The set data directory options will appear, but in SQL database, set directory options is not available. It can show you that set server information. Set server information, you have to specify the SQL server name along with SA user ID and password. That I'm going to explain you now. Now the software has been started. In that you can see that set server information. This will be the SQL server information. You can't get the data directory. Now this one you can't able to change it. MS SQL, it will be fixed actually. Server name, if it is a single user license, only one system, if you are using, you should mention the computer name here. For example, my computer name SURAJ. This is my computer name, and backslash and mention the server name, SQL server name, that is SQL 2022-1. This is the server name of my computer. This server name, how you know that? If you want to know about the server name, you just come here, services. Either you can go to the services.msc, or else you can go to the SQL Server Configuration Manager also. First, we will see that how to identify the SQL server name. If you open the services.msc application, here you can search SQL. There are multiple instances are installed in my computer, but I want to use SQL 2022. The name I was given here, SQL 2022-1. This is my instance name. If you want to install another SQL 2022 instance, you can able to install by some different name. You can't able to install same name. This is one of the important thing here. That name I was specified in this server information field. This is the SA user account. The password is busy@123. That is my password. Then you can save it and create a company. If the server information is invalid, you can't able to create a company. Sometime you'll be getting error also. This is the one way you can able to connect the server. Another thing here is you created any default instances. When you installing the SQL server database, there will be having two options. One is default instance, another is perform new action or new instance. So if you are having both options, if you are selected default instances, then you should mention dot means if it is a default instance, automatically that server information will be gathered by the software. Now I don't have any default instances here, so that's I can't able to connect it. If I have default instances, I should use dot also. Now another different types of connectivity, let me show you. That is by using the IP address. You can just go to the command prompt cmd. Now let me show you how to gather your IP address of the computer. So that you have to use one command called ipconfig. So this command you have to use ipconfig. If you want, you can make a note of this ipconfig. In my computer, the IP address will be 192.168.29.101. The IP you have to specify by here 192.168.29.101. This is my IP address. Then you can put the backslash and you can mention the SQL instance name, SQL 2022-1, SA user ID and password. In this way also you can connect your SQL. This is another method. If it is a multi-user mode or more computers that might be connected by the same database point of time, you can able to connect it by IP also. Even you have another configuration called using the IP address. That is my next part. Let me explain you in my next point. So here this point I am not covered yet. It's SQL service start and stop. I directly went to SQL server configuration. You can finish later. SQL server configuration, now I shown you how to connect it by computer name using IP address. Now let me show you another method, the multi-user, that is a client server edition. If you have multiple computers, then how to connect it? So that you have to go to control panel, ensure that you are having fixed IP address. Ensure that you having a fixed IP address for the computer that is in your network and internet, that network sharing center. You can get your computer that Wi-Fi that connected by the system. This is the Wi-Fi. That you can go to the properties. Here you should select the IP protocol, this one, IPv4. In my computer currently I am using Wi-Fi, so that I'm not configured any of the fixed IP here. Always I am using the same internet connection. I'm never changing any other internet connectivity. Customer place, what happened? Customer keep on changing the internet connectivity. Sometimes they are using the Geo fiber, sometimes they are using some other app broadband, sometimes they are using their mobile data. So that point of time, each and every time the IP address is keep on changing. So please make sure that the customer having fixed IP address on the computer. And only this process it can help you. After ensuring this, if it is fixed IP address, then you should come to the and search the SQL configuration manager, SQL Server 2022 configuration manager. Specify the 433 port number along with IP. That is, I can show you that network configuration. But various type of instances are showing here because I have multiple type of instances. Currently, I'm using 2022 this one. If you double click on that, right side will be getting three options: shared memory, named pipes, TCP IP. Enable this TCP IP. Sometimes this TCP IP will be disabled. You should enable this. Once you enabled, always you have to restart the SQL server. After enabling this, the next step is go to the properties. This property step, you will be having two options: protocol and IP address. The IP address, scroll down, getting this IP4. You should getting this IP4. This IP4. So now I have already mentioned 192.168.29.101. This IP address will identified by my command prompt command. So that I already mentioned. Time if it is a new configurations, you have to mention this IP address after the verification with this command prompt. That IP address you should mention here. The SQL will have some TCP that is called 1433 open port number. That port number you should use here, 1433 TCP port. Similarly, drop down, there will be another option called IP all. Here also you can mention 1433 IP. These configurations that you have to do. And majorly these configurations is required for one is client server connectivity, that is multiple system connectivity. Sometimes the server is not accessible in our client machine. That time this configuration is required. And another way is sometimes you are connecting with multiple branches, office to branch office. That point of time also sometimes that static IP along with this port number you have to configure it. There is two scenarios that you need this kind of configurations. So now I mentioned my IP address and everything. And once again, I will be restarting my SQL server 2022-1. This one I want to restart it. It is restarted. After restarting, I just come to my busy with my IP address. Either I can put it my open port number 1433 also. Comma, you can use the comma 1433. Then user ID and password. You just save it, and then you can create a company. So this is how you can have a process to configure along with your IP as well as the port number 1433. Now you can once you configure this thing in server system, you can close the busy, restart the busy once again, and you should open the busy agent as well. Because busy agent will have one specific option called dongle server, right? If you enable this dongle server here in server computer, then only the license is get by the client machine. Otherwise, you won't get. Enable the dongle server, and here you'll be able to see the license details and everything. Then you save it. Then in client machine also, the license you can get. After this, you will be getting the database also. The client machine, they can able to access server machine easily. This is the configuration. So now let me show you how to start and stop the SQL services. There are two different ways to start and stop the SQL services. One way is go to the services.msc. You have an option to start as well as stop. Start, restart, pause, everything is available in services.msc. Otherwise, SQL Server Configuration Manager, in that SQL Server Services. After clicking the SQL Server Services, right side of the panel, you will be having all the instances where you installed. You right click on that specific instance and you can stop the service or start the service. You can click on this specific server and you can start, stop, restart it. Okay. So this is the start and stop method. Now let me show you how to do certain security settings for the SQL connectivity. That is firewall, antivirus, IO, that is inbound, outbound rule, etc. First and foremost, you have to try to connect the database in your server as well as client machines. If it is not working, then you should do certain other settings also related to security settings. This control panel setting is control panel, security, command security, Windows firewall. Sometime Windows firewall it is making some trouble to us, so that time you can turn off the Windows firewall time for a few minutes. Otherwise, you can see here there is some warning messages showing inbound connections that do not match a rule are blocked. Type of messages if you are getting in this screen, you should allow it. This Windows Defender firewall properties, you can allow it. Domain profile, as well as for private profile, public profile, each and every profiles you can allow it and apply the settings and save it. Now it has enabled, allowed. Now it has enabled. Similarly, you should have another option is called inbound outbound rule. Sometimes busy applications is also coming like this. There is something like error. One round symbol is coming. You have to do, if you are busy, you are getting this type of error here. So right click on that specific error. Click on these properties, and you can take the action as allow the connection to it. Okay, allow the connection. Sometime if the client machine is not connecting by the server machine, you should do this kind of settings. After doing this, you can restart the both the busy softwares once again, server and client, reconnect it, then it might be get connected. The thing here is, if the rule is not added here, you should have the option to create a new rule. Suppose for example, inbound rule, coming and outgoing, because it's the database installed in a server machine. If the client machine, if you wants to add any data, then that has to connected with the server. Unless and until you can't able to do any kind of data entries, you can't able to view any reports, because the client machine is directly connected with server database. At point of time, you has to enable certain, you has to create certain new rules by yourself. That rule creation will become like this. Here you can have a new rule option. After clicking on that, you'll be getting this port number, the port. You can mention the port 433 or whatever that is. So yeah, and you can press the next button and allow the connection. Yes, if you want to allow the program, you should press the program. You can select the busy.exe, busy21.exe, that application path. This one you can add it here. This will be the busy21.exe. You can add by the port number, or you can add the busy21.exe as well. Allow the connection. Allow the connection. Next, here you can give one name called busy or whatever that is. Duplicate name it won't take. Now the rule has been created. After creating this rule, inbound and outbound both you have to create. Same way you have to create inbound and outbound. So now I was added one rule called busy. Similarly, you can add outbound rule also. Once it's done, you can restart the services, SQL services, by using SQL Server Configuration Manager. You can check by once again that client machine will be interact with your machine. This is how you have to create a new rules. Another thing, I already said that you can disable the firewall for few minutes, as well as antivirus for few minutes. Currently, I don't have any antivirus in my computer. If you have, means you just right click on that and disable for few minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Sometimes the antivirus will keep scanning or something is going on, so it can't able to interact with the server machine. This will be the problem. So you should disable it for few minutes, and you can check with by yourself. This thing you have to do. And another important thing, sometimes the client machine can't interact with the server machine due to some date time settings issue. It's a very common settings, date and time settings. Each and every computer's the date and timing settings will be there. Sometimes the timer IC is not working, means the timing you can't able to figure it on another hardware thing that of the subject. In that point of time, you have to consult with some hardware person to remove the CMOS battery, and you have to replace it. Here in date and time settings, you will be having different types of time zone and etc. So please make sure that either the server and client machine both will be having the same time zone, same date, same timings, everything. Then only the client machine can interact with server machine. These things also you have to verify by yourself. The next thing I want to show you that how the data synchronization is possible from head office to branch office and branch office to head office through SQL. So here I have two companies. One is branch office and another is head office. Let me open head office. Head office is connected along with static IP as well as port number. This thing I'll already shown you here. Server information. Instead of this local machine IP, you should mention the static IP that you are purchased from the telecom provider. IP is different for this because that IP starts from 122.168. Something like that. This is my local IP, because now currently I am showing the demonstration in my local PC. That is why I'm not using this static IP. For the data synchronization purpose, you have this static IP only. You never use this local IP. Okay. And here you can mention 1433 port number also. This is for head office side. Let me open the head office company first. This is the head office. This one is the head office. In head office side, our enterprise feature enabled this multi-branch details as well as HOBO data synchronization configuration. This is the HO configuration. Similarly, I'll be opening here office configurations. One is HO. Let me open another company, branch office. Sync the data from branch to HO or HO to branch. We has to mention the correct server information in branch office. Only it will be get interact. Server information you has to mention in configuration feature and options. In that enterprise features configuration, you has to mention the correct server name 1433. This will be the user ID and password of the server machine database, server head office database. This company is which company that you want to sync the data. That company code has to be mentioned. Which branch? Chennai branch. That username of the branch. To specify the static IP and port number over here in a branch office that is able to interact with this. You can see the read server information. If you click on the read server information, it is connecting to the head office database. Once it is get completed, you should check the existing status of the data, and then you can also check the connection of the data. So this will be the interaction with head office and branch office with static IP and number. Once it's done, processing or when you entering any of the transaction in HO or BO, whatever it is, based on the configuration that you have did. So through that, the synchronization will take place. For currently, it is my branch office. So what I can do, I can create one item. This is one item. Save it. I have added one item. So now I want to sync the data from branch office to head office. So what I have to do, I have to exchange the data. This option will help us. Now item master I have added one. So I have to send the data to HO. Timer is also you can kept frequently 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That timer you can kept means that time the data synchronization is automatically happening. Now you can see the data is going to sync from branch to head office. The first time it will take a little bit more time because was created this company very freshly. So that is why it is taking too much of time. So I hope this will be understand how to specify the server information in my branch office and how to see the data. Going further, let us discuss some few other points related to the challenges. Let us review some of the challenges over here. You might be getting some difficulties while you attaching the database from SQL Management Studio. Sometimes you can't able to do that. So now let me help you how to do that. Yes, you have to use the SQL Management Studio. Always you are installing the SQL server now. So that time please install the Management Studio also. Is attaching existing MS SQL database in SQL Management Studio. Let me show you how the thing will work. First and foremost, you have to open the SQL Management Studio. Search by like this SQL Management Studio. It will be there. Open it. It is opening. It will take a little bit of hardly 10 to 20 seconds to open. After this, you have to mention the correct server name. It's taking automatically Suraj1/SQL 2022-1. And either you can connect it by Windows authentication mode. If suppose when you installing the server, then that time you are selected Windows authentication mode means you can able to connect only Windows authentication mode. You can't able to interact with SQL Server authentication. But my side, I was selected SQL Server authentication mode because I correctly installed my SQL Server. Then you should mention the that SQL user ID and password. You can turn on this remember password. The user ID and password is wrong, then you should getting this message. And I'll re-specifying this authentication mode. Database has been connected. Now let me show you how to attach and detach the database. Suppose if you want to attach the database, you should right click on the database option and use this attach option. Suppose the data you have in some specific folder, D drive or either some other drive, you can select the database like this. The file you should able to attach, you have to attach, that is .mdf and database, both you should have to attach it. Let me select the file and I can press OK. Then both the file will come over here. Press the OK button, then the file will be get attached. This is the process you should have to manage. You should have to follow. Right click and you can select the file and attach it. Suppose you want to detach it, then you should use the detach option. Click on the file, the task option, detach it. Detach means the database will be database cannot be shown in the busy. Database cannot be shown in busy. Name will be detached. This is how the thing will work. You have multiple databases want to be attached, you have to select one by one companies, 3, 4, 5, 6, that code number wise, and you should attach. The next challenges that might be facing that accessing the SQL Server Configuration Manager in Windows 8 and later. And now I directly search SQL like that, so I'll be getting this Server Configuration Manager. Sometime you might be don't get, so that time you don't worry. You should use this Windows R button. You can press the Windows R and you can search SQL Server Manager 15.msc. 15.msc, if you search, means that Windows 11 is a 15 version of SQL Server Manager, so that automatically it get opened. Windows R, and you can search the SQL Server 15.msc. Now you can see that automatically Server Configuration Manager is appeared. Keyword that you have to type here, given in the screenshot. On the run command, open the run command, Windows plus R key, and you can search SQL Server Manager 11.msc for 2012 SQL. For SQL 2014, you should press SQL Server Manager 12.msc. Similarly, 16 you can press 13.msc. 17 you can press 40.msc. 19 SQL Server you should press 15.msc. If it doesn't getting this feature, SQL Server configuration feature, after pressing this, then what you have to do, you should get that where you are installed the SQL. That is, suppose for example, this PC is a 64-bit operating system. In this programming files, in that you will be having an option called syswow 64. You can search syswow 64. You will be getting this SQL Server Manager. Suppose you can't able to find it in by using this Windows or sometimes you can't able to find it by start button, you can directly come to Windows option syswow 64 and you can run the SQL Server Manager. And after that you can restart the service or start the service, or you can do some IP configurations, etc. by the solution for this specific challenge. Next challenges that you might be facing, that restore the busy data directly through the SQL. I'll be going to show you now. For example, you have certain data file along with you, that is taken some busy backup that busy, it can't restoring the backup because that backup is containing heavy data. Point of time, you should use the SQL Management Studio to restore it. Now let me open my backup in my side. So that this is my backup. Generally in SQL, if you are taken a backup, means this both file will be generated, that you can extract the file here data. So this CS folder you should extract by here. Extracted the data CS folder, another folder will be get generated. In that there will be two files. These files you can store with busy software, SQL Management Studio. Foremost, you have to create one new database. Click on the database in SQL Management Studio and click on the new database. Copy this name. Pressing this new database, you'll be getting this window. Here you can mention the database name here. Giving the name is 9009. Any name you can give. After that, you can edit. You can press OK button. One database has been created by myself. I was added this database com009db. Then you can right click here, go to the task. Here you will have an option called restore database, and you should select the files. Window, you need to select this device option. Device, these three dots, add the files, extracted files. I'll be having these files in my D drive, so I'll be going to my C drive here. SQL, you can select all files by here. Getting both the files, you will select one file, because I have created only one database name and I've created this one, so that I'm adding only one file here. It's okay. File is get added. It's done. You should press OK. Now the process is going on. Selecting the backup sets is completed yet. Adding this file, is options left side of the window. You should press this override the existing database. Press the override the existing database means if comp009, if the data file you have created, that this file is going to restore. So this is how the restoration process you has to do. Restoration is going on. The restoration has been done successfully. The process you has to follow to restore the data from Microsoft SQL Management Studio. Then only the busy file can be restored by the software. So next point I want to explain you with some other different challenges, that is called restore the busy data through the SQL. Already completed. Okay, no issue. Challenge will be SA password. Changing the SA password. Password changing, you can do it by here. Sometimes you forget the password, so that time you should connect this SQL Management Studio. Security, you'll be having login option. Okay, user account. Another window will appear and change the password of SA account. Sometime you might be forget that password. You should be able to change it by here. Guys, if you forget means some other way you can retrieve the password. The other step I want to going to explain you that in your busy win folder, that is in our busy win folder, specific folder is called system will be there. System folder will be there, that is called server. Server is a notepad file. Some search server. That server is a notepad file. Okay, if you open the notepad file, then you are getting the existing password of your SQL. In which name or which user account and which password that you are getting connected, that name will be available in, you can see the file name server file. If you open, then it show you that in which data which user account that you are connected by the SQL, or in which password. The password will be given here, busy@123. In that way also you can gather your earlier password. Second option, right? So now in this changing the SQL password, you have to open the SQL Server Management Studio, and you can connect to the SQL Server instance, expand the security and logins, right click on the SA and select the properties and go to the general tab, and after that enter the new password, permit, press the OK to change it. So the way you have to do it. Next challenge is change the SQL database directory. The database will be get installed in a C drive. That C drive is not safe for us because sometimes the data might be corrupted due to some Windows failure or operating system failure or some hard disk crash. So that point of time, if you are worrying about your data, you can your data from C drive to any other drive, D drive, E drive, etc. As the file once again. That first you has to take backup of your data. The important thing here that you can stop the SQL server. Stopping the SQL server, you can't able to the data from C drive to D drive. If you know that where the SQL has been installed, generally SQL is installed in our C programming files, Microsoft SQL Server. So there will be 4 SQL folder will be there. I need this SQL 2022. SQL 2022, I'll be having this MS SQL folder. This folder, then again you'll be getting data folder. In this data folder, I'll be having all the major files. I want to copy these files and I need to replace it from some other time. It won't possible because the service is internally started. And to do that, I has to stop the services. Configuration manager, I have to stop the service. Then only I can able to place these files from some other drive and attach it. For that, you has to come here, services, and stop the services because now the application is not working. Take your time. So I shown you how to stop the services. Once you stop the services, then only you can cut folder, contacts, and you can replace it some other. You can attach it by using the SQL Management Studio. Attaching the process, earlier I shown you already. You can follow the process. SQL Server, move the database files and update the file paths in SQL Management Studio and restart the SQL Server again. Verify the databases already companies are visible or not. You can verify that. Let me review. Let us review common SQL errors. One error you are getting that access denied from local area network in client machine. The solution of this error is verify the server accessibility by the ping command. Check the server and client firewall settings. The TCP/IP and named pipes are enabled on the server. The correct IP configuration on the server SQL Configure Manager. Server information using IP with and without port numbers. And inspect the server firewall rules. These steps you have to follow. In command, how to check that? You can come to the command prompt and verify the server machine conf number, that is the local IP address. The IP config command. Then you can use this ping command in your client machine along with server machine IP address. Command, this IP address belongs to server machine. Now I am checking in my client machine, not in server. This ping command along with the server machine IP, then if you press the OK button, automatically that pinging takes place. If everything is okay, then pinging, line of pinging will takes place. Otherwise, you will be getting this request timeout. Request timeout if you are getting, you has to restart your computer. Otherwise, you has to check with your network person or computer hardware person to correct it. Error, you can do some restart options, or else you can do some you can remove the cable and you can reinsert once again. That kind of steps you can follow. Otherwise, you can go for the hardware persons to correct it. networking is working fine, then you can't get this request timeout message by the pinging. Done, you can check the server and client for firewall settings. Both turned off some few minutes. Enable the TCP/IP named pipes that already I shown you in a configuration manager. Network configuration manager. You can right click and you can enable the enable the TCP/IP, and you can configure the IP address. Earlier we seen that already. The IP address and port number you can able to connect it by client machine to server. Process you has to follow. Otherwise, if you have any antivirus by the computer, you can disable it for a few minutes and you can check it. Error that you might be facing, that timely fashion error RTE 3146 in SQL and services is not getting started. You have to disable the named pipes. So everyone know that named pipes option. I once again shown you. Named pipe option will be available in the network configuration. This is the named pipe. You just disable it. This is the named pipe. Disable the named pipes from SQL server. Replace the template file in SQL data folder. That folder is available here in C drive program files, SQL server. In MS SQL folder, there will be on template data folder. Internally, it contains many files. First, you have to stop the SQL services. Then you can copy the files. Control C, you can copy and paste it in data folder. Paste it. But paste and copy, it might be possible only if you are stop the services. Otherwise, it can't able to paste it. But next error you might be getting, that some exclusive operation is being run in this company. Please log in after some time. This message you are getting in while you open the company. When you're opening a company, you might be getting this message. So the solution of this message is here you have to refresh the data from Management Studio and restart the computer. Getting this error now, so you have to refresh the data from Management Studio. I'll be show you how to refresh it. In Management Studio, just go to the database and right click on the database folder. Here will be have a refresh option. This individual company, you can right click database company comp 001 002 003. Each and every company you can right click and refresh. Right, you'll be getting refresh option. Refresh it and you can restart the computer. Then it is the refresh option here. This refresh option. Problem will eliminate. Next error that might be getting, that permission denied during access to SQL data conversion. Solution of this problem is full permission must be granted to the SQL Server service account on both SQL and data folders for the successful conversion. You have to do one thing, that is in C drive program files SQL, that data folder, main data folder. You can right click and the security option in the properties, security, edit. You can add everyone user and press OK and allow it. Simultaneously, you can see this name MS SQL 222.1. I already added this user. User is not founded here. To add that name also, being like this MS SQL 2022.1. You have to type the name and you have to add it. Already added, so that's why it is not possible. If it is not added, you should type the name and you can add the name also. Then you can give full permission to that. Save the settings, then you will be getting that kind of message. You just continue the process. This you have to do. And another thing here is you have to click on the database properties. Click on the database properties. You can have a SA user option will be there, allow and Denny. See the settings. Sometime it might be Denny. The permission it might be Denny. So that point of time you can't able to convert the data. So in that point of time, you should grant it. This permission you have to grant it and you can save it. Once you did, you have to restart the service always. Then only it will be work. One will be the solution for this problem, permission denied. Next point here is ODBC called failed error. When you opening a company, you might be getting this problem. So that time you have to connect the SQL Server Management Studio and detach the comp info file. That comp info file, it's required, very much required. Otherwise, you might be getting this problem. If comp info file is already attached, then once again detach it. You can detach it and again you attach it. Attaching the comp info file, you are getting this problem. Once again you detach it and you again attach it. So this will be the solution for the problem. Error you will be facing, that communication link failure error RTE 3146. Message that might be getting by you. So that solution of this error is by the client side. If you are getting Please check the network connectivity by using the ping command. The ping command, how you want to use that I already shown you. Please use the ping command. Client to and server to client, vice versa. You have to use a ping command. If it is working fine, then you are facing the same problem. Utilize the SQL to SQL utility for database conversion. SQL to SQL means if you are using a SQL database, once again you can reconvert the database from SQL to SQL. Conversion means, so let me show you. Data export import. We have a data from SQL as well as import data from Access. Now currently I am using SQL database. Again I has to convert the data from SQL to SQL. The problem will be eliminated. This is the solution for this specific error. Communication link failure error. Sometimes the SQL tables might be corrupted or some data will be not working. Means 3146 that communication error will becomes. So that you have to do connectivity checking as well as the SQL to SQL data. So the next problem that you might be facing, that RTE 3146 connection right. The error message will be shown like this. Automatically the software will get terminated. The solution for this error is identify the duplicate file with the same name in the SQL data folder. If it is unnecessary, remove it, or if the file is necessary, attach again. The data folder, it might be contains the same file 2 times. Allow, because on single folder the same name it can't allow. It is saying that the duplicate name or the file is already exist. Technical glitches, it might be happening. So the same file will be available for 2 times. In that point of time, you just remove the unnecessary files, or you have to attach it once again, detach or attach it once again. This might be the solution for this error. Troubleshooting steps for suspect SQL file. Due to some improper shutdown, due to power failure, the file will be went to the suspect mode. When you're working with the SQL database, automatically the power will be went. You don't have the certain backup of the power backup. So you might be facing this problem of suspect mode. Then you have to call to our customer care, or you have to call to the partners, or either you can take the backup of your data. You can stop the service and you can copy the data folder and place it somewhere. That will be the better option, because if you have multiple companies, each and every company backup taking, it's not possible. It's enough time you should service and copy the data folder and place it somewhere, then execute the query given by here. It will be like this. So you should execute the query. The query execution is very simple. Just can copy the query and open the SQL Management Studio by here. You can new query, right click on the database and you can select the new query. That this page will appear. Here you can paste the query. You can paste it here and you can execute it. Execution is very simple. Okay. Query that is given by the company side, you can copy and paste it and execute it. Execute button is available over the screen. Okay, so this is the process you have to follow, but you keep in mind before doing this you have to take the backup. Take a backup if possible, otherwise you can copy the data folder and keep it somewhere. That will be the better option. The error you might be facing, that handling emergency file, that message will become like this: comp_db12019 emergency. Facing this problem, so that has to execute the query. But in this query, you can see the name comp_db2019. Database name has to be matched. Directly paste the query and execute it. You have to verify the database name. Then that database name to be matched by the query, then only it can be executed. Similarly for suspect also, the suspect query also you can see the comp0024. That is a DB name. That DB name has to be matched with our suspected database. Not matching, then query is cannot execute. The emergency cases also. Another error that you might be getting, that restart computer failed. The problem might be you might be facing when you installing the SQL. So 75% SQL installation has been completed, but still 25% is remains. You might be getting this message. It is very for you. And sometimes most of them are doing the restart. Again, they are starting the process. Same problem they are again facing. So don't be, if you are getting this kind of message, you just go to start, search regedit or registry editor. So you will be getting this type of registry editor screen. In that, follow the step. Go to HKey local machine. In that, you can select system. This will be the system. Under that, you will be getting current control set. So in the current control set, you can select this control. So drill down. there you'll be having an option called session manager. So double click on session manager, then right side some values will be visible. So in that you has to search pending file rename operations. Just you double click in that. If you found any of the value data will be available in this box, you has to select it all and you has to remove that. You has to delete that value data. After that you can press OK and you can close the register editor. Again you come back to the installation point where you left and rerun the installation once again. So after that you can't facing this restart computer error while you installing the SQL. So this is the quick solution for this particular error. So you don't want to restart the computer manually. So instead of that you can follow the steps. Our FAQ questions. Can I restore the busy data to a lower version of SQL? No, busy data can only be restored to the same or a higher version of SQL. I think it's not possible. 2014 data you can install it in 2022 or migrate it into 2022, but you can't downgrade the SQL data from 22 to 14 or 12, etc. And we can have multiple instances and versions of SQL in same system. Yes, you can install. So you can install multiple times with different SQL instance name. That is possible. Share a SQL database with other software. It's generally not recommended to share a database with other software applications, but possible. Not recommended in Busy. Find out SQL version. Either you can find the SQL version by using the query as select at version. You can type the select. This command you can use and execute it. You can get the SQL version 16. I am using SQL 16 version. Different SQL server is different. Using 2022 in that version 16. Otherwise, you can get the version name by our programming files, Microsoft SQL Server in that SQL folder. See the names MS SQL 15.SQL. 15 is the version, 16 is the version name. Right, if you have any further assistance or any kind of guidance regarding this SQL installation and configuration, you should call to our 24/7 help desk number given by the display 828282 5 times, and you can write a mail to us support@busy.in. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. Have a great day.